It is absolutely time for you to get off of that well worn path.
Whose footsteps have you been walking in? I'm your host, Eric Brown, and with me, Mr. Mike Jones. What's
Hey,
up,
Brown.
man?
Hey, what's going on, baby?
Oh, man, I love this subject. It's time to go.
This one is strong, man.
Yes, sir.
And I don't care who you are, how accomplished you are, how much paper you got on the wall from the university, how much tenure you have in your job, how much money you got in the bank. You will benefit from this pod blast. But I ask that you listen with the intent to be influenced, because we're going to be pushing all up against your BS during this pod blast. And that BS means belief system.
Yes, sir. This one will push up against those things that you've been taught in the past.
Absolutely. And so I want to start with this. So again, I ask that you listen with the intent to be influenced. Traditions are the beliefs of the dead. Traditionalisms are the dead beliefs of the living. So again, we have learned a whole lot of stuff, y'all, from the people in our lives. They have taught us what they believed was right and wrong, good and bad, positive and negative. But they were doing it from their own personal map, from their BS, from things that they have been taught and that they have been experienced. One of the things that I want you to connect to at the beginning of this pod blast is that everything in the universe has a positive context and a negative context. Quite often, we only see things in the context of which we have learned them and they have been taught to us. But I'm challenging you to listen with the intent to be influenced, because I know that if you do, there is a good possibility that you are going to benefit from this pod blast in ways that you don't even imagine right now. One of the things I know, Mr. Brown, we've been taught is that there is no I in team.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think that anybody taught us anything out of malice or anything. They just come from their belief system that there is no I in team.
Yeah, and when we talk about the two different contexts of that particular tradition that we've been taught, I want you to know that generally that tradition has been taught to us, or that BS has been taught to us, because what they were saying to us, or the context of it, was that you should not be selfish, that you shouldn't just look out for yourself, that you shouldn't ignore other people's needs, but that there is no I in team and it's not about you. So the context that we teach it here at Discover Leadership Training is from what we believe is a positive context. We teach that there absolutely is indeed an I in team. And we believe that that I is you, because you have got to understand that you matter. You absolutely count. Everything that you do, every word that you speak, every attitude that you demonstrate, every behavior that you perform has either a positive effect on the people in your life or it has a negative effect. There is no neutral in the context of this conversation. You are affecting every one of those relationships 86,400 seconds of every day in either a positive way or a negative way.
So, Mike, if every choice you make and your attitude affects others, that is the I in team, and that's not selfish?
It is absolutely not selfish, because if I am now accepting personal responsibility to be the I in team, then I am accepting personal responsibility for the behaviors that I demonstrate, how I show up on my teams, knowing that if I do not do my job, if I do not accept personal responsibility for what I am now given the responsibility of, then we are going to get to sum total. SUMTOTAL, not optimal. The only way for us to do optimal is for each and every one of us to do 100% of what we can do to help the team to be the most successful that it is. If I am not giving my 100%, if I am not showing up, if I am not the I on this team, and that I stands for two things, y'all. It stands for individual, autonomous being who is giving 100% of what they can, owning their area of responsibility and bringing it every day. It also stands for interdependent. This is when there is a group of people who understand this concept, this belief system, and they are applying 100% of what they can to make sure that their piece of this puzzle is absolutely the best that it can be. And in that interdependence, we now create something greater than any one of us could on our own. But we've got to be willing, Mr. Brown, to accept that level of personal responsibility that I matter, that I am the I on this team, and that if I don't show up and do the very best that I can, I am going to negatively affect the outcome.
Yeah, but Mike, I played sports throughout high school, basketball and football, and they always taught that there is no I, that you were being selfish if you were that I.
Absolutely. And you know what? I taught my boys the exact different message, because here is the picture that I showed them. When I was in school playing football, I was a quarterback. I know that if, as the quarterback, I did not do my job, then we were not going to be successful. But take a look at the whole picture. If the center, the person getting the ball to the quarterback, doesn't do his job, then there is going to be a fumble, which means that we are going to lose the ball. If the guard right next to the center doesn't do his job and his individual in front of him sacks the quarterback, that's going to affect the outcome. So everybody on that team, whether we're talking about a sports team or we're talking about your work team or we're talking about your family team, everybody has to do their part in order for us to be successful. So if one of those eyes, one of those interconnected pieces is not doing their job, we will not absolutely get to the optimal outcome that is available to us. We're going to get to sum total.
Well, Mike, that certainly is a tradition that has been taught to all of us, that there is not an I in team.
Yeah, and it is absolutely a tradition that I would encourage you to absolutely reframe for yourself and look at it from a different perspective. Because if you are one of those individuals on the team that is looking at it from this perspective, we just created a new possibility for us to create something that we have not created before. Whether we're talking about, again, your family or your team at work. You know, I have a story I want to share with y'all. And this is what fires me up so much about this particular subject. My youngest son, Jeremy, was a quarterback at East Central High School. And they had a head coach change in his senior year. Now, the coach that had been there prior to this change had been through our program. He bought into the BS that there is an I in team. He taught it. He had it plastered all over the high school. He had posters and signs in the locker room. He taught these boys, as he brought us in to do some work with them, that there is absolutely indeed an I in team. And their thing was, do your job. If you do your job, we are going to be successful. But if any one of you does not do your job, you are creating a situation that all of the rest of us have to overcome in order for us to be successful. Think about this, y'all. So what I did when I understood that there was a coaching change, I really wanted to observe how this new leader came in and adjusted the environment that had already been created. Because that's what happens every time there is a leadership change. People need to bring their own stuff in to feel comfortable with the environment or the culture. So the new coach came in and he absolutely took down all of the I am the I in team slogans and posters and everything. And what he put up was, I am not the I in team. He absolutely got a stencil and put an acronym all over the field. INAM. It's not about me. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know today, I want you to just be here in this moment and hear me. It's all about you, because it is you that is going to affect the outcome. It is you that is going to affect the relationship either positively or negatively. If you are willing to accept that level of personal responsibility and reframe that tradition that you learned, get off of that well-worn path, you are going to create a new possibility in every relationship that you are in by accepting that level of personal responsibility.
Well, Mike, it sounds like Coach Hartman was bought in on that tradition that there is not an I in team, instead of accepting personal responsibility and teaching that to his players.
Yeah, and not much like Coach Hartman, Eric, all of us have been taught growing up certain traditions, and that is just one of them. What I want you to be aware of in this present moment is that Coach Hartman learned that as a boy. He utilized that as a coach in his career. It was the tradition, it was the expectation that you taught it that way because you didn't want your players to be selfish. And I don't want you to be selfish either. This is not about being selfish. It's 100% about being a powerful self. Understanding that I don't care who you are, everything that you do and say is going to matter. It is going to affect the outcome. There is no neutral in the context of this. Whatever you do or say is going to create positive or it's going to create negative. So I am encouraging you to understand in this present moment that it is all about you, that there is an I in team and that I is you.
Well, it sounds like he at least had good intentions with his acronym. However, it was definitely a tradition that he bought into.
Surely. And I do believe that, this is not being taught in malice.
No.
People are teaching it because it's what they believe. Yeah. But I want you to know, as I said at the beginning of this, there is a positive and a negative context to everything in this universe. So if you are actuating on any traditions in your life from the perspective of a negative context, I absolutely challenge you to look for the positive context because there is one that exists in every one of those situations.
So what is the unintended positive consequence of Coach Hartman's story?
So the unintended positive consequence has to be that we as parents, that we as teachers, that we as leaders in our communities need to understand that we sometimes have taught people to not accept personal responsibility by teaching them that there is no I in team, that it's not about you. So therefore, when the time comes for them to be held responsible, they have all kinds of excuses because we have paved a path, a well-worn path that allows them to use those excuses because it's not about me. Change that particular approach, and you're going to change your results. If you want the things that you're looking at to change, you got to change the way you're looking at it. I'm encouraging you to look at this from a different perspective and absolutely own the fact that you are the I in every team that you're on.
So accept personal responsibility and play full out on the edge.
Yes. And I absolutely got to say this because it applies now during this pod blast more than anyone that we've ever done before. If you are not living your life on the edge, being the I in team, you are taking up far too much room.
Here we go now.